Property Investors Nominee webinar. My name is Cyril Thomas, the host of the Property Investors Awards and founder. I'm just going to run through some housekeeping just to make sure you can all hear me. Can you all put your hands up? That's a little icon on the GoToWebinar. Lovely. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Sam. Good to see so many of you on here today. Lovely. That's okay. I can see enough people have heard the request. I'll just put your hands down. So I'll just say before we start that if you have any questions, there is a question area in the GoToWebinar panel which you can post your questions to, and I'll try and answer those questions as we go along. At the end, you'll also have a bit of a chance to ask a few questions in the Q&A. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm guessing you all know because you are all nominees of the Property Investors Awards. The Property Investors Awards is an organisation that has been going for about 8 years in one guise or another. And this year we are hosting 12 different categories of awards. You will be familiar with what categories those are because you are applicants. The award ceremony itself is taking place on the 30th of November 2019, and we hope to see as many of you as possible there, and hopefully a number of you will be winners as well. So this webinar, the reason why we host this webinar is because we want you to be fully equipped in regards to what to expect and what we expect of you from the Property Investors Awards. We'll go through a number of different areas covering the Property Investors Awards, and you'll get the opportunity to ask questions and also find out more about a few things that you may not know about already. Example, the Property Investors Bureau, but we'll go into more detail about that a bit later on. The first thing we're going to touch on is the judging process. So the judging process itself is quite straightforward for most of our categories. It simply entails the judges meeting on the 17th of October in a lovely accommodation at One London Bridge, Central London, sponsored by Howard Kennedy's offices. And on that day, what they will do is they'll pour through all of your applications, and each application will get a score out of 10 by each of the judges. We have 20 or so judges that will be looking at your applications, and they're all from different backgrounds, but all highly reputable individuals within the property investment sector. Your scores from each judges will then be compiled to give you a final score. That final score would then determine whether or not you become a finalist, and the person with the highest score will go on to become the winner at the award ceremony. It's as simple as that, really. The only category which becomes a bit more complicated is the Facebook Group of the Year category. And that's only because last year that was a public vote award. But then we realized there was a few complications in that if you were a larger group, you're likely to win the award because you'd have more people actually nominating on your behalf. So we changed the structure of that, or the format of that award, so that only 50% of the vote is attributable to the public vote, and then the other 50% is attributable to the judges voting on each applicant. And then we also prorated the actual votes themselves, so that if you have a group with 1,000 people in it and 100 people vote, that means that 10% of your group pretty much have voted for you. And each 10% out of 100 is equivalent to 1 point. So if you have 600 people out of a group of 1,000 voting, you end up with 6 points. If you have 6,000 people out of a group of 10,000 people voting, you still have 6 points, which basically means that there's more equal weighting, and it's not just a case of if you've got a larger group, you're likely to take home the prize. So that's the judging process. At this point, before we move on, I'm going to ask if there is anyone who has any questions about the judging process, because we can cover it off in this topic as opposed to coming back to it. If there's no questions, that means I've done a semi-decent job at explaining it. Okay, so we've got somebody, that's not a question, that's a saying here. Okay. So here we go. So we've got a few questions now. So Rick says, when is the cutoff for the group votes? So because this is in regards to the Facebook group of the year, because the judging process and the public votes are two separate, totally separate entities in effect, we're actually going to extend the public voting element of that to the 17th of November. And the judging element of it, the 50% weighting from the judging, will take place on the 17th of October. That means the Facebook group of the year nominees will not know who will be finalists till the 17th or till just after the 17th of November. But everybody else will know towards the end of October. I hope that answers your question, Rick. And in regards to the judging for all other categories, yes, that will take place tomorrow. And the finalists will be announced towards the end of this month. So Alex, you've asked, how does the HMO judging work? Pretty much the same way as all of the other applications bar Facebook group of the year, in that the judges will sit around a table. They will look at all applications, and then based on the criteria for HMO property deal of the year or HMO investor of the year, the judges will give you each application a score out of 10. And then all of those scores will be added up to give you a final score. The finalists will be determined from those final scores, and the winner will be basically the person with the highest score. So Atushka asked, when do nominees find out after the judging process? So it will be sometime between, well, basically tomorrow and the end of the month. It's depending on how fast we can process all of the judges' scores and whether or not there were any anomalies. That's okay, Alex. So Atushka, you will find out by the end of the month whether or not you are a finalist. And that's the same question that Michael has asked. When are the finalists announced? So that's towards the end of the month. Rick has asked to clarify, voting can run up to the 17th of November. Yes, so Rick, voting can run up to the 17th of November for the public votes for the Facebook group of the year. It would be awesome if we can have some prop tech category next year. Rick has also asked if we can have some prop tech category this year, or next year, I should say. I agree with you, Rick. I think that there's an opportunity to introduce prop tech to it, and I've been very conscious about, or cautious, I should say, about introducing too many new categories in any individual year. But I know prop tech is a big part of our sector, especially for those people trying to grow their businesses and do it right. It's the foundation of many of our property businesses. So it certainly is something that we'll be looking to implement in future years. Lovely. So I think that's all of your questions answered. Kevin has asked, it would be great to have a presentation at the awards of the award-winning categories. Kevin, this is a good point. So let me just make sure I'm making a note of that. That's prop tech. So we've got a few people here with me today, by the way. It's not just me here. We've got Tony, we've got Chloe, and we've got Tom. I know Tom's name. And and they're taking notes too, just to make sure we catch everything. They all say hi, but you can't hear them right now. So the prop tech category is something that we'll look at next year. So Kevin made a comment about having presentations at the awards. Now, if you've ever been to any of the awards, you'll realize that it's a packed night of networking, trophy giving, and more importantly, actually, entertainment, celebration. So a lot of you will know that the awards goes right up till about 12:30, and then there are the hardcore group of people that end up going home at 4 a.m. at night because they just stay or they go off to other places. We haven't actually got time to fit in presentations in the award ceremony itself, but we sort of counteracted that by having an additional event this year, which a number of you have been invited to. It's the event which is taking place on the 30th of October. We're going to speak about that in more detail, but another way we're going to look at sort of counteracting the fact that we haven't got time for major presentations on the night is the Property Investors Awards catalogue. But we can go over that in a bit more detail towards the end as well. Is that okay, Kevin? Lovely. So I think that's all outstanding questions for now on that topic. Trying to figure out a way to put all your questions down. Okay, so there we go. Just going to delete all of these. So the next part we're going to move on to is what is expected of you. As a nominee, not much is expected of you, to be honest, as a nominee. It's when you become a finalist and potentially go into becoming a winner that there are expectations of you. If we get the more harsh element of it out of the way first, it's about conduct. So as a finalist and winner of the Property Investors Awards, you become a brand ambassador, meaning that every time you display the trophy, you are basically representing the organization and all that it represents, which may not seem like a big deal, but it's actually quite a big deal to us because we know that there are a lot of people out there that use the awards in such a way that helps promote their businesses, helps secure finance, helps instill trust in their customer base. So it's very important that we protect the brand on behalf of all of you. You want to know that when you're speaking to your next financing deal lender, or when you're speaking to your next customer who's willing to invest 100K into your business, that when they see that symbol, they're not going to associate it with anything untowards, with anything that makes them think twice about your conduct. They're going to want to see that trophy or see that picture of you winning the award, do some research and find out that there is a long line of award winners that are worthy of winning those trophies. And that then leans to your credibility. So having the right conduct is an extremely important thing when coming to being a brand ambassador for our awards. We are actually putting together a document now which will tell you basically what is expected from you in relation to the awards. Another thing that we're making sure that you are more aware of this year, which is a positive thing, is the use of our hashtag. Because what we've realized is that there is so much positive social media that you put out there, social media posts, etc., about becoming finalists, about winning awards, etc. And we want to make sure that you get as much visibility as is possible, but we can't possibly track everything. So Rick's already using the hashtag. I trust you, fantastic. So for those of you who don't know, the hashtag this year is hashtag 2019 PIA Awards. That is hashtag 2019 PIA Awards. And when we're looking on Twitter, on Facebook, and all the other platforms, we're looking at that hashtag to make sure that we can repost and retweet your posts to get the most coverage. Okay, excellent. So I've just been corrected by my colleague Tony, and this is what she's here for. She sets me straight when I'm going a bit astray. That is not hashtag PIA Awards, it's hashtag PIA. Correction. PI awards. That makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? This is why they're here. So that's hashtag PI awards. And what I'm going to do is, there is an area here where we've got chat, where I am able to enter some text, and hopefully the whole group gets it, so there is no miscommunication in regards to what the hashtag is. So that's PI awards, 2019 PI awards. And I'm sending that now. I'm hoping that it works and sends it out to the whole group. Fantastic. And thanks, Rick, for posting that on your Facebook group. Lovely. Okay, so for those of you who go on to become finalists, you will also be given a social media badge, and that badge will have your picture on it, the PIA logo, and a bit of text, and that's something which you can post on your Twitter feeds, on your Facebook pages, on your LinkedIn, and it's just a fast way to let people know that you are now a finalist for the Property Investors Awards, because you're going to want to gain maximum exposure at the finalist stage, because should you not become a winner, people need to know that it's actually a huge, it's something very positive just achieving the finalist status, and you're going to want to maximize that for PR purposes. So I'm going to ask all of you to send Tony an email. I'm going to put Tony's, well, I'm going to put the official email address here, which is awards@propertyinvestorsawards.co.uk. I'll put that in the chat area, because I want you all to send in a high resolution photo of yourselves, so that when we're creating these badges for you, we're not picking something off your Facebook with you maybe on a night out or doing water skiing or something like that. We just want a clear shot of you, which shows you in a professional format, that we can put into this badge and that you can be proud of when you start sharing it with your friends. So that's awards@propertyinvestorsawards.co.uk, and I'm sending that to the entire audience. Now, I believe Tony or Tom will follow up with emails in regards to this. They will send out emails to everybody to request these pictures way in advance. Ideally, you start sending these pictures through today so that the team can start working on these badges, because you're going to want the badges as soon as the finalists have been announced. So I think that from a what is expected of you point of view, I think that's pretty much it. This area should be quite straightforward, but any questions whatsoever, please let me know now. Okay, so we don't seem to have many questions from this point. That's good. Okay, here we go. Can I confirm, is it just a photo of us or the logo too? Very good question. Ideally, you would provide us with a photo of yourselves and your logos. So that's two photos, photo of yourselves and your logos. The reason being is because for some categories, some categories are related to a company as opposed to an individual. But I think that it's probably quite nice on your part if you have a badge, one for your company and then one for the individual photo. And Tony's just made a point in regards to what format. Now, the format can be JPG, PNG, JPEG, etc. As long as it's high quality, high res, it doesn't really matter, because then we will just reduce it to the size that's necessary. But please make sure it's high res. Galinia says, do we need to send the pictures now or after the finalists are announced? I don't think you've lost anything by sending the pictures now. I think if you can send them in now, all it means is that we can do a bit more preparation beforehand, because we've just found that when we receive 80 to 90 pictures at the same time, it takes that much longer to process. So if you start sending them through now, then Tom can start working on that in the office pretty much today. It just means that some of you will end up creating more badges than we end up giving out, but we'd rather do it that way than you not have the badges when you need them. So Ian says, I have additional info. Is it too late to send it? Ian, the judging day's tomorrow, Ian. Okay, so you can send information through up until 12 p.m. today, at the very latest. 12:01, and they're not going to look at it. And I'm looking at Chloe now. She's giving me the eye that said, well, you better not allow anything past 12:01 because they've got a lot of work to do already. Okay, so Rick says, I understand that from the PIA will need to be added to the group. Yeah, very good point. So Rick's asking a question in relation to the Facebook group of the year, in regards to a rep from the PIA being added to the group in order for the judges to be able to analyze the group on the day of judging, because that's what they will be doing. They'll be going into the group and looking at how interaction is taking place, etc., etc. And that is true. So Tony is usually going to be that rep. So if you can all make sure that Tony is a member of your group, if she is not already, I believe she's a member of most groups already. But Rick, yeah, just double check that Tony Smith is a member of the group. Thanks. So Kevin says, if there are two of us, do we send individual pictures? Now, if there are two of you, you can send individual pictures and we'll give you individual pictures. But if you've got a nice joint picture to show cohesion, that'll probably work better. So if there are two of you and you work together, ideally you have a picture of both of you, which just makes it easier for the message that you're sending to your audience that this is a team. But if you want to send individual pictures, we don't mind doing two badges for you so you can both share them individually. And Kevin's asked about the logo too. Yes, do please also send in your logos. Ian Morton says, how do I send the video and 3D visuals? So videos and 3D visuals are a bit larger in regards to space it takes on the drives, etc. I think it's going to be best, that's okay, Rick. I think it's going to be best for you to send in larger files by WeTransfer, and then we'll be able to download them and have to display them individually on the actual day. So WeTransfer is probably going to be the best way for you to do that, Ian. Does that answer your question? Okie doke. So it looks like we may have no more questions on that. Okay, so Rick's asked, I think Tony is already a member. Does she have a blonde bob? I'm not too sure actually. I'm not seeing her profile picture. I need to double check that. But if she's not, she's made a note, so she'll get in contact with you, Rick. Okay.
An orange dress.
And she said she was wearing an orange dress, so you can check that out. Ian says, to what? That's okay. Ian says, to what address? Okay, so I put an address, awards@propertyinvestorsawards.co.uk, in the chat area a little bit earlier. You can send it to that too. That means the whole office will pick it up and the right person will process it. Lovely. So I think that might be all in regards to questions for that particular part. Okay, so we're moving on to what you can expect. So every year we try to add more value to the awards, especially for the finalists and the winners. And it's important that you block out key dates in your diary. So should you become a finalist, should you become a winner, you've got these key dates in your diary, because these are dates that events will take place on, where the winners will be invited to maximize their exposure and their experience of becoming winners of the Property Investors Awards. So a big thing surrounding the awards is media. When you win a trophy, you're going to have to connect with media, or the media, I should say. This includes entities like the Property Investors News Magazine, Your Property Network, etc., Property Industry Eye, Landlord Today. A number of you will be familiar with these outlets and probably already released articles, etc., in these magazines and online forums, etc. But you're going to want to have your story already formulated. So I would urge you to start thinking like a winner, start thinking like a finalist, even though you have not yet become one, because it just makes it that much easier for you to maximize the exposure once the announcement's made. We are going to start doing a series of webinars with winners as well. So should you become a winner, you're going to have the opportunity to potentially be on a webinar that will go out to 20,000 plus people on our database, where we talk more about why you won the trophy, the award that you won. So it's always good if you can start thinking about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you want to present it to the world. Now, a lot of this stuff is stuff that you would have done already, but just tailor it for the awards. Tailor it for the awards and start working on it now so that you're not having to rush around at last minute when the opportunities start to arise, because you will start getting the phone calls. And what will also happen is you're going to start getting phone calls from all of these property events. A number of you may already be speakers at property events, but what tends to happen is once you've spoken at some of the main Property Investors Awards events, all of the smaller events start contacting you saying, can you come and speak here? Can you come and speak here and there? Some people have been invited to Scotland, some people have been invited to Wales, etc. And if that's what you'd want to do to maximize your exposure, then you certainly want to be ready for that. Key dates for your diary should you go on to become winners. Baker Street Property Meet on the 29th of January, January the 29th. We have a Meet the Winners session there. So that session normally attracts about 300 property investors, and we will normally invite 3 to 5 winners on a first come first serve basis usually. I'll speak to Ranjan about exactly how he wants to do it this year, but that will be a session dedicated purely to the winners of the Property Investors Awards. So keep that date open. So should you become a winner and be invited to that event, it's a fantastic opportunity for you to maximize your exposure. We will also be at the Property Investors Show on the 3rd and the 4th of April. And that will also be another Meet the Winners event. Now, what I will try and do is those people who don't get selected for the Baker Street, I will try and ensure that they get a chance to speak at the Property Investors Show one of those days. Again, a huge opportunity. For those of you who know about the Property Investors Show, you will know that it attracts between 5,000 to 6,000 property people over the course of 2 days at the Excel Centre. So start thinking about your presentation for that. So Tom Hoskin has said he runs the UK Land and Planning Group, if you're not already in that group. So he's just basically made a plug. Tom, I'm hoping you're also a nominee here. But yeah, the UK Land and Planning Group. And to be honest, I think you're one of the organisations that we should be partnering with. So we certainly will be speaking to you in more detail about how we can work together to maximise the exposure of our winners. And Rick's also said, well, if we're plugging. I'm not going to go into just reading out a number of organisations that would like to be involved, but I'm sure many of you know Rick Gannon and his group. Okay. Any more questions in relation to this particular part? Okay. So we're now going to talk about attending the awards as a finalist. If you're going to be attending the awards, I would recommend bringing your team with you. So previous awards winners or previous finalists, I should say, they've come to the awards and they bring the whole team, everybody who's been a part of their success, they bring their other halves, and they make a night of it. So win or lose, you've got your team there, because really and truly, the first thing you should be doing at the awards is celebrating the successes of the year. For you to be a finalist, it's an achievement in its own right. So you're there to celebrate the success of all that you've achieved, whether or not you go on to becoming the winner of the main prize. You don't really want to be there sat by yourself or with a group of people that you barely know, should you win, especially if you don't win. So I would say certainly if you haven't booked your tickets, I know a lot of you have already secured your tables and a lot of you are coming, a few of you have booked 2 or 3 tables, which is good. But if you haven't yet done so, please make sure you do that sooner rather than later. I am looking at Tony now to find out if she's extended any early bird offers to people who have not yet booked their tables. I'm going to refuse to comment on that at this point because, or should I comment, Tony? Okay, so she has reluctantly said that a number of you has raised comments about you'd really like to know how many seats to book based on whether or not you become a finalist. So you'd want to know that you've become a finalist first before deciding whether or not to take 2 or 3 tables. Tony said that she can give you to the end of the week to have the early bird offer. Any time after that will be more a case of you'll pay the standard rate. But she'll give you, and this is just to the nominees, by the way, this is not to the general public. She will extend the offer to the end of the week. I'm going to ask a question. This is just for me having an understanding of who we've got online and how familiar you are with the awards. Can you put your hands up if you've actually attended the awards in the past? Okay, so I'd say roughly about 20% of you have actually attended the awards in the past, which is good. So you're going to have some new people there. And Rick says, what date is the dinner, please? So Rick, the date of the dinner is the 30th of November. That's the 30th of November. Paul hasn't attended. Sam says, I'm assuming we will know the finalists by the end of the week then. Pressure, isn't it? I am not 100% sure about that yet. So basically what Sam is saying that, Cyril, what you should really be doing is saying, we will extend the early bird offer until the date that you publish that we know whether or not we're finalists. There is some logic to that. You know what I'll do? I will discuss that with Tony and I will ask Tony to email you all to let you know what the decision's been made about that. The issue is that, that's okay, Sam. For the general public, the early bird offer is supposed to have expired and we'll see what we can do in regards to that. It's a fair point. It's a fair point, and we are here to take on board all of your comments. So Rick's made a comment that yes, it does leave the Facebook group people out in the dark. It certainly does. That's unfortunate, but the thing that it does do, it gives you more of a chance to become a finalist because you get more time to encourage your members to vote. So from a Facebook group point of view, to be honest, Rick, I know a number of people in your group are already coming anyway. It's just that they seem to be buying tickets individually. So if you put something out in your group that's saying who's going to the awards, we've been nominated, etc. And if you're going or if you want to come, let's all get on a table together. I think you will find that you probably fill up 2 or 3 tables just by saying that, because a number of other Facebook groups have done that or done similar, and they do it year after year, and it tends to work quite well. So the risk on your part, Rick, as a Facebook group is, yeah, it's pretty low. I think that is all the questions in relation to. I may have just deleted a question from somebody who put it on within the last 2 or 3 minutes. So if you put a question up that I haven't answered yet, please do repost that question. So we're now moving on to the PIA brochure. The PIA brochure, as you will see when you go online, it stays online for the entire year. It normally gets published about halfway through November. And in the PIA brochure, it will have details about all of the finalists. It will have details about the event itself, all information pertaining to the event, and then that brochure, once published, stays online pretty much until the next event. So anyone visiting our website wanted to know more about more about the awards and what it entails, that's what they download. As a finalist, you will all have the opportunity, or you will all be in there as a finalist. You have a basic listing, which tends to be a picture of yourselves and then a small bit of text about your businesses. If you wanted to have more than that, if you wanted to have a feature, then you can actually speak to Tony about advertising or having an advanced feature. There is a cost to that. So if you wanted like an actual half a page or full page or double page spread with more details about your business and what you do or the deal that you're doing, you can actually speak to Tony about that, and she'll sort that out for you. You can download the brochure if you go to the website, thepropertyinvestorsawards.co.uk, and you can see what last year's brochure looks like. This is quite an important part of the session now, because it's something which is quite new to the Property Investors Awards. We did not do this last year. One of the things that the judges complained about, and they've complained about it every year, to be honest, and we haven't really figured out a way to get around it until this year, was that they're judging applications, these faceless applications in most circumstances, where they have never met the individual that they're judging. They don't know that much about the individual other than what's in the application. And they see this as it's not, for them, they don't see it as the correct way of doing things. They think that they should have more of a connection with the people that they're judging. But if we had to invite all 80 to 100 applicants to the judging day, it just would never get through all of the applications. But what we've done this year is we've created a VIP invitation only event that will take place on the 30th of October. So this is an event that you do not need to pay for. It's being sponsored by our corporate sponsors, Howard Kennedy, who are a law firm, solicitors, and Horner Blakey, who are insurance brokers in central London. So they're funding the VIP event where the canopies will be served and you'll have wine and cocktails, etc. And that will take place at 1 London Bridge on the 30th of October. Now, that event we've extended invitations to all of the finalists, or all of the finalists will have the opportunity to go. A number of winners from last year will have the opportunity to go. All of the judges are invited, and our key stakeholders. So there'll be quite a few influential people in the room, because some of our key stakeholders are CEOs of banks, etc., partners in law firms, all the sorts of people you want to know when you're a player in the property market. That's going to be a lovely event. I know quite a few of you have already come back to confirm that should you go on to become a finalist, you will be attending. Another thing that's happening on that day, which is actually going to signify transformation within the property sector, is the Property Investors Bureau will be launched. Now, this is a big thing, really, because this has been in the making for the last several years. It's always been on our minds to move this forward, but it's never really been the right time. The way to look at it is, if you think of the Property Investors Awards as promoting excellence, the Property Investors Bureau gives you the tools to be excellent. So the Property Investors Bureau is not an NLA or ALA or Property Ombudsman. It's an organization which is solely focused on supporting property investors, not landlords, property investors. Now, we all know that property investors do tend to be landlords too, but all landlords are certainly not property investors. One of the biggest initiatives with this organization, the Property Investors Bureau, is going to be its accreditation process for the property education sector. So for the first time in history, the property education sector is going to have an accreditation scheme that enables property investors to differentiate the good from the bad. Now, we've got some pretty large players in the property education sector on board with this already. They've been screaming out for it, but there's never really been the right organisation to take it forwards. So we're stepping into that space, and we find it to be quite exciting, because if we don't self-regulate this sector which is known as the wild, wild west in many property circles, somebody else is going to come in and do it for us. And it's probably going to be a lot more painful. And we all know that property investment success starts with education, whatever level you're at. When I was 7 years deep into property investment, I still went on a few courses when I wanted to learn how to do commercial investments. When I was several years deep, I still went on a few courses when I wanted to learn about title splits and how to maximize the value in title splits. So this is quite an exciting thing for us, and we're going to make an announcement on the day which is going to reward all of you who have become finalists. I'm not going to tell you what it is now, but let's just say it's going to be an early Christmas present to all of you who become finalists, and I look forward to making that announcement on the night. At this point, I'm going to ask once again, do we have any questions? And before anybody asks the question of what is the special announcement, again, I'm not going to tell you on this webinar. Lovely. So I think that in that case, everything I've said within the last 5 minutes has been quite clear, because we have got no questions in relation to that aspect of things. What's left for me to say? All that's left for me to say right now, okay, before I say it, has anyone got any questions in relation to any other aspect of the awards? Okay, Murat, thank you. If the Property Investors Bureau launch is after the judging process, how will this help the judges meet the nominees? So the judges aren't worried about the judging process in regards to the nominees. What they want to know is when they hand out, because on the night, what I didn't mention is that it's normally the judges that are handing out the trophies, and they need to talk about the people that they're handing out trophies to. So when they get up on stage and they start speaking to the audience about the application process and why they chose that individual, what they really want to be able to do is to say, not just based on the application, am I giving this speech? They want to say, we've met this individual, I've had a conversation, whether it be 5 minutes or 30 minutes, and we can say X, Y, and Z about this individual or this organization. So it really aids in that process. It makes it more of a wholesome process. That makes sense. Thank you, Murat. Well, if there are no more questions, all that's left for me to say is I wish you all success in your applications. And for those of you who become finalists, I look forward to seeing you at the event on the 30th of October. And hopefully I see you all at the awards ceremony. Wishing you all the best. Thank you very much. Have a good day.